Hello editors, my name is Julie Rain. I'm a product marketer here at Medium, and in this video I'm going to walk you through your new editor inbox. We're going to walk through all the settings you need to control the inbox and manage stories from writers. We're going to talk about what that inbox looks like and how you can manage it, and we're also going to walk through the inbox, what it looks like from the writer's perspective too. Okay, let's get started. Right now we are in the submission settings of my test publication, Birds, Birds, Birds. You can find the submission settings by going down to your own publication, hitting that drop down on the top right and selecting submission. There'll be a little green button next to it so you'll know where to go. Here are all the submission settings that you have access to. What I want you to take away from this section is that we've tried to give you as much control as possible to make this submissions your own. You really have all the control you need to manage the submissions in a way that makes the most sense for you. So, for example, submission mode. There are 3 settings that are available to you. You can make it open to all, which means anyone who follows your publication will be able to submit a story to your publication. If you want to only allow approved writers and manage submissions from new writers in a different way, you can do that too. Just click approved writers only, and that'll basically be the same way that you manage submissions now. That is, that existing writers can submit stories the normal way, and new writers can request to be added to your publication however you currently have them managing it. And if you go on vacation, if you want to put the pub on hiatus, or you just don't feel like dealing with submissions on this particular day, you can just close your publication to all submissions. You can also select whether you want to allow stories from draft mode or only those that have already been published. We know a lot of editors prefer to only get stories from draft mode so that they can kind of work with the writer before the story has a chance to go live, so we wanted to make sure that you had that option. We also have an option for you to include a link to your submissions guidelines. I'll show you this in the writer flow, but basically this is going to force writers to check a tick box saying that they have read your guidelines before they submit anything to you. It's just another opportunity to make sure those guidelines really get some eyeballs and that your writers are sending you stories that are as close to submission ready as possible. So definitely pop your submission guidelines in here. You also can change how many submissions you want to deal with at a time from both approved writers and new writers. So for example, let's say that you are open to taking as many submissions as existing writers want to send you, so these are people who have already written for your publication or who you've already added to be writers as your publication. They can send you, I don't know, unlimited or maybe only 6 at a time or whatever number you want. And let's say that you would prefer to limit new writer stories to only 1 story per new writer so you can't get inundated with submissions from new writers. Or if you want to let them submit up to 10 at a time, totally up to you. And you can come back and change these as frequently as you want to make sure that they're still working for you and your publication. Let's get to know your editor inbox. Here you have all the stories that have been submitted to you. The first thing you should know is that you can filter by status. So what makes sense to me would be to only want to look at stories that are waiting for review, that are already in review by you, or stories where you've already made some requested edits to the writer. When you schedule or publish a story, it'll automatically tick over to approved. You'll see in a second what that looks like. If the writer withdraws a story, that's what gets it the withdrawn filter. Or if you decide the story isn't a great fit for your publication and decline it, it'll get that decline tag. You can also filter by the kind of writer whose stories you want to be looking at. So you can look at all writers at the same time. You can look at stories only from approved writers, that is, writers who have already written for your publication, who you've already added as writers, or brand new writers who have never written for your publication before. Just to illustrate an example of how I think editors could use some of these features, here are 3 stories that are of varying levels of quality for my publication, Birds, Birds, Birds. So let's check out this truly phenomenal story about birds. Bird lovers will not regret reading this story. Amazing, no edits needed. Let's go ahead and schedule that. Let's get that up, certainly no later than 2026. So now that I have accepted it or scheduled it into the future, it now has that approved tab. All right, here's a pretty good story about birds. With some work, this could be a great tale, but let me just leave a note to the writer. A little bit of work you can do here. Great. So I'm going to go back to the story. I'm not going to publish or schedule to publish, and I'm just going to let them know, the writer, that I think it needs a little bit of work before we're really ready to accept it in our publication. And here's a story about boards. Now, just by looking at the title, I already have an idea this isn't going to be a great fit. Boardwalks, building boards, board games. No, not for birds, birds, birds. Easy mistake to make, but not a great fit. I'm going to go ahead and decline that. and that goes ahead and filters it out of the stories. Now let's go look into the new writer outbox, and this will show you kind of what the writer sees when you as the editor change the status on those stories. So here we are in my test account for Zuli's test stories. So I can see that out of my 3 submissions, this one's already been approved. Love to see that. Pretty good story, edits requested, and if I go in there, sure, there's that private note from the editor. And I can see that my story about boards was sadly declined. We've seen things from the editor's perspective. We've seen things for how writers can submit stories to publications where they're already contributing writers. Now let's walk through what a brand new writer would experience, someone who has not written for this publication before. Here's a great story about fun activities that Zuli's test account has just written on Medium. Now I could publish this just on my own profile, but what if I submit it to a great fitting publication? So now I have the option of submitting to publication. This is going to look a little different. So here there are going to be 2 tabs. Those are the contributing publications. These are publications where I'm already a writer, I've already been added, or I've already published a story with them, and publications that I am following. So this includes ones where I've already written, and just any that I have followed and are open to new writers. Now, I think this story that I've written is not a great fit for Birds, Birds, Birds. I think this publication Fun Stuff could be a better fit for my story about fun activities. So I'll go ahead and follow that. Now, I happen to know that Fun Stuff is open to new writers, which is why I wanted to submit to it. And sure enough, when I go to submit to a publication and I go to following, Fun Stuff now shows up here as an option, even though I've never written for them before. I haven't been added as a writer. I just follow them, and I know that they have set their settings to be open to new writers as well. So again, remember that hyperlink to the guidelines that I told you about. They link to it here, so it's just another surface to help guide writers about the kind of story you're looking for. I click to Fun Stuff. I add my topic, fun. Why not? I take the box that says my story follows the submission guidelines, and I submit it. And it really is as simple as that. So to reiterate, if you decide to open your publication to all writers, not just existing writers, you can manage your new writers through that flow instead of needing to have a comment, a form, a spreadsheet, a separate email inbox. We've tried to make it as easy as possible for you to manage your writers and their stories in a way that makes sense for you and the way that you like to work on your publication. Now, I want to be clear that if the publication has not opened their submissions to new writers in that way, following the publication doesn't do anything. It means that you're following the publication, but that doesn't mean that you're automatically able to submit to that publication unless they have set up their settings to allow new writers to go through that new inbox flow. So for example, I now follow Human Parts, and even though I follow it, it's not showing up here because they have not set their submissions to be open to new writers through this flow. So it really is up to you depending on how you want to handle new and existing writer submissions for your publication. Thank you so much for watching this video. I can't wait to hear what you think of the new editor inbox. If you have any comments, let us know in the comment section below. We can't wait to hear your feedback. Thanks, and have a great rest of your day. Bye.